A good Erev Yom Tif, a good Kebencht Yor, Ksiva v'chsima tova, L'shana tova u'metuka, Chag Sameach. Less than a year ago, in the middle of September, just a few days before Rosh Hashana, Rabbi Sachs published an editorial in the Wall Street Journal. It was in the midst of COVID, which is still going on all around us, and he wrote then about how empty the synagogues would be in the coming high holy days of the Jewish calendar. In contrast to every other year, where the shuls were packed and abuzz with davening, with shofar, and of course, friends greeting one another with good holiday wishes. Rabbi Sachs wrote that the prospect of mostly empty shuls reminded him of what he had warned of in his book Morality, which he had just finished writing, and which we just finished studying together just 2 weeks ago in our reading group at Kehillat Shari Torah. He wrote that a moral society is based on the idea of covenant, and that the we, the collective we, is more important than the I. He observed that that had largely come unglued in recent years in the UK and the US. The individual interest, the I, was ascendant over the common good represented by we, the plural. He noted that this was even reflected in synagogues, where people would be sitting far apart from one another, which symbolized to him a room full of eyes, rather than the densely packed we that is normal for the high holidays. He said, imagine if we took the ideals of the self-reckoning that is the emblem of these days of awe and used them to look at our civic lives as well as our personal lives. He said, indeed, we would find much that we have to mend. In the 11 months and change that have passed since then, we've lost a great deal, including Rabbi Sachs himself, who passed away, sadly, just a few weeks after writing these words. And yet, perhaps we've gained some insight and some depth to our beings in that time as well. The deprivation of communal prayer, of kiddush, of hugs and handshakes, has made this period in our lives difficult and challenging and painful. We've developed strategies, we've figured out innovations, we've Zoomed until we couldn't Zoom anymore. All throughout this, we've looked forward to better times in the future. A story appeared in a collection of high holiday inspirational tales that speaks of another time of tribulation for the Jewish people. The conditions were different, but the strategy of looking forward to better times is no less relevant to our times than it was during the dark days of oppression of Judaism during the Soviet Union's existence when this story took place. Rabbi Pesach Krohn told this story that he heard from the Kalaver Rebbe of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Taub. Rabbi Taub was born in Romania and survived Auschwitz, scarred by having been a victim of Dr. Mengele's experimentation. Rav Taub told the story of a woman named Anya Chaikin who lived in Kalyazin, a little town north of Moscow, in the USSR days. For many decades, in the Soviet Union, a Jew associating with anything Jewish, learning Torah, lighting Shabbos candles, bris milah, seder, anything, was punished with dismissal from work, maybe criminal charges, and possibly even a prison sentence. As a result, many Jewish boys remained without bris milah in those days for fear of retribution against their families from the government. Nevertheless, some families, with great self-sacrifice, would make sure their sons were entered into the covenant. It could never happen on the 8th day, as the Torah instructs, because government informants would watch a family very carefully after a boy was born to see that no bris milah was performed. For weeks or months, parents had to wait to fulfill this mitzvah. This woman, Anya Chaikin, had a baby boy, and she and her husband waited 11 months until their friends told them that they were no longer being watched so closely. Then they got a few trustworthy friends together and made the bris. The boy was brought into the room, the circumcision took place as it's supposed to be, and then afterwards, the newly circumcised boy was taken to the back room where his mother was waiting for him. A few minutes later, there was heard a scream, a cry, and then a heavy thud. The mother had fainted. What happened? The mother was so afraid that her son would never have a bris. She undertook something that would compel her to long for this bris and keep it foremost in her mind every day. She undertook a promise to herself, a vow, not to kiss her son, her baby boy, until he had a bris milah. So for almost a year, this mother suffered the pent-up emotions that only a mother could feel. And after the bris, she took her son in her arms and kissed him so much she was overcome with emotion, and she fainted. How powerful is this resolve of a Jewish mother who probably didn't have a lot of formal Jewish education, to be so dedicated to a mitzvah. Rabbi Krohn presented this story as an insight into a verse that we will say before sounding the shofar on both days of Rosh Hashana. One of those verses is from Psalm 119, verse 162. It says, Sas anoichi al imra secha, kamoitze shalal rav. I rejoice over your word like one who finds a great treasure. We have endured a lot since last Rosh Hashanah, and even up to last Rosh Hashanah, we had already endured a lot of exile from our normal Jewish lives. One thing is for sure is we appreciate those things all the more now. We look forward to good things in the future, and we will rejoice like someone who finds a great treasure. May this year bring good health, peace of mind, safety, and security, and may we find the collective will and determination to mend all that needs mending. In this new year, now beginning of 5,782, may we come together often and in good health to celebrate simchas and happy days together. Best wishes to you and those you love for Eksiva v'chasima tova l'shana tova umetuka. May we all be inscribed and sealed in the book of life for a healthy, happy, and sweet new year.